Okay, nearly there. We hit a bit of a snag with the months-long burnout and that big card commission, but you've finally finished the main illustration and we're nearly there. What are you doing? I'm drawing my comfort character. That's your D&D character. I know, isn't she cute? Look, you're almost done. You're right next to the finish line, it's right there. You only have to draw one background illustration. It doesn't even need to be a particularly detailed one. Just one background illustration, and you're done. Fine. Hello, and welcome to this little corner of the internet. I'm Shaskor. So, you've heard the stories about Faustian bargains, right? Our hero makes a deal with the devil for something they want and offer their soul in return. Then they either outsmart the devil to get the best of both worlds, or are cast into eternal damnation, depending on the moral of the story. What if we were to take the devil's point of view in all this? What if you, as a player, while not playing an actual devil, could make bargains for the immortal souls of others and offer dark powers in return? Well, I might have prepared a little something along those lines. Presenting the Thoray. First, the core of this is to be able to make people give their eternal soul willingly. I say willingly. Willingly in quotation marks. So, this race needs the ability to get the souls of willing creatures. I'm thinking we keep this simple enough. Touch a creature, a handshake will do nicely, and make a bargain. If the creature is willing and you fulfill your part of the bargain, you gain their soul when they die. Waiting for dwarves and elves to eventually die before you gain the benefit of the bargain is impractical for gameplay though, and not rewarding for the player. Not to mention it would put a larger load on the GM to keep track of all these NPCs and when they would die, so I'm thinking that we disregard time a little here. You get the soul in the future, but you get the benefits now. You're a creature that grants you natural gifts. We can afford to disregard cause and effect a little. Speaking of natural gifts, you need to be able to grant something in return. Now, we can't just give the player the wish spell at first level, and we need to be careful to strike the balance between giving the player the feel of striking a Faustian bargain and completely upending the balance of the game. I'm thinking we ensure these supernatural gifts are small in scope. You can't remove a curse, but you can transfer it to someone else. You can change someone's appearance, but they will be stuck looking like that. Oh, look at that! Supernatural HRT! You should also be able to work with your GM to grant a natural gift that don't lean as much on the mechanics of the game, like giving someone musical talent and a sudden rise to fame, or helping a childless couple get a baby. Funny story, this all started out as world building for another story when I asked myself how to explain how these two lesbians had a child in a fantasy setting. For the natural gifts, I'm also thinking Eldritch Invocations would fit thematically, but they should cost more. The point is, these powers should have small but meaningful effects. And there should be a bit of ritual to this so that you can't just grant powers as an action. You shouldn't be able to give yourself powers, because then everyone would just make themselves overpowered. The same goes for the party members. That's the natural next thought for someone playing this race, and I do want to give them that option, but they shouldn't be able to grant them indefinitely. As I've said, there will be a cost, which puts a limit, but I'm thinking that in order to dissuade granting the same person too many gifts, we add a tax for having more unnatural gifts. Each time you grant an unnatural gift, the cost increases by 1 for each unnatural gift they already have, and by 4 for each Eldritch Invocation they already have. Don't want to step on the Warlock Patron's turf. But Shaskor, I hear you say, whatever will be the cost? Whatever will be the cost? Whatever will the cost be? Well, it would be hard to turn a profit if the cost was souls, considering you get one soul and then you spend it. So I'm thinking lifespan. For this, we will need to turn the concept of aging a little bit on its head. Instead of starting from the point of time and counting age up from there, we will have a point in the future and count down lifespan until then. This race will be born, although spawned might be a more appropriate term, fully grown, though inexperienced. The less they have of a remaining lifespan, the more old and frail they look. The more time they have left, the younger they look. Consuming souls will increase your lifespan by several years. The base cost of granting a supernatural gift will be 1 year of your remaining lifespan. They should be able to turn a profit of time when they grant someone a supernatural gift to get their soul. Let them have some change to have fun with as well, not to mention that they can't go negative in lifespan or they die of old age. A little side tangent, I enjoy a bit of dramatic, so I'm thinking in this context a fun, unnatural gift would be to heal 1d6. On the face of it, losing a year of your life to heal someone 1 to 6 hit points seems like an awful idea. And only worse if you've already granted them supernatural gifts and the cost increases. Heck, every time you heal someone, the cost for healing them increases. It's not a sustainable business tactic. I imagine players will scoff at the ability and ask, why is this even here? It doesn't even scale with level. And I will take great pleasure in this, because sooner or later, the player will have a terrible boss fight. All their party members are down, some of them have 2 failed death saving throws, and they're out of health potions and spell slots and they didn't take Spare the Dying. Frantically, they look through their abilities and feature for something that can be done, and see this unnatural gift, and sacrifice years of their own life to spare the life of another character. Oh, if only I could have that in one of my games. Absolute chef's kiss. Mwah. Does all this make a player character practically immortal given enough souls? Yeah, I guess, but elves already live for 700 years and I've never seen a campaign last that long. Unless there's a lot of time skips, campaigns that take decades to play IRL could easily fit in a year. Does consuming souls extend your own life sound a bit similar to Lichdom? I mean, there are differences, but I guess. Will we dwell on it? No. I'm also thinking it would be nice to have sub-races that benefit more from their favorite flavor of souls. Some gain more years from consuming good souls, others from evil. Make it more interesting. Along these lines, I originally planned on this race being able to briefly look into your soul to see if it would be palatable. But there wasn't really any way to do this that wouldn't be too strong. It was reading more like a class feature than a trait you start with. So I made it one. I just cut out the overpowered part and made it a feat that you can get instead of an ability score increase. Makes more sense anyway. Knowing how to focus your eyes to praise someone's soul seems like something that would take some training. So, what do we get when we mix all of this together? Well, allow me to tell you a story. You're playing with your friend in the forest, running among trees. I don't care if you're children or not, adults should play more. You're having a race to nowhere in particular. Your friend in the lead when they stop abruptly. In fact, you crash into them, tipping them over into what made them stop. A pool? A whirlpool? It shimmers in every color and pattern, shifting and shaping, turning this way and turning that way. A vortex. A primordial pool of chaos. Your friend has fallen in, but the splash seems to have coalesced into your friend standing before you. The person in front of you seems to be identical to your friend, except for the eyes. Their eyes are now pink, with no pupil or iris. Your friend fell in, torn into infinitesimal bits and consumed by the liquid. What stands before you is the primordial chaos displaced by your friend falling in, filling the mold of where your friend once stood. A Thoray. Spawned from primordial chaos, Thorays have a certain disregard for the course of nature and can use this to grant unnatural gifts. Much like the vortex they came from, they live off the souls of living creatures, bargaining for their souls so that they can extend their life. You might think asking for someone's eternal soul is a price too high to ask for, but if you get enough people in one place, you get some that would give anything for the life they want. Some who are willing to give up the afterlife to make this life worth living. And some who don't believe in an afterlife. And others who'd rather risk no afterlife than eternal torment. Where these groups overlap, there's always room for a Thoray to make a Faustian bargain. Additionally, Thorays have no immortal soul of their own, and they can't typically procreate. Instead, when they die, they liquefy into a new vortex, allowing more Thorays to be created. Visually, they bear the features of whatever creature fell into the vortex to spawn them. This could easily just be the doppelganger of a humanoid that fell in, but humanoids aren't the only things that can fall in. A bird could yield someone with a pointy nose and skinny legs. A wyvern could yield a Thoray that looks like a dragonborn. In some cases, a Thoray might just look like an anthropomorphized animal. But why does a primordial pool of chaos prefer creating humanoids, of all things? The simple answer is, it doesn't. It could create a dog with a human face, an aboleth with mouse ears, an earth elemental carved to look like a dragon, or a simple owlbear with suspiciously pink eyes. GMs are free to go wild with this, but few creature types have the mental faculties to bargain for souls and die. And of the remaining, only a few are fitting player options. Now, a powerful Thoray could make an excellent warlock patron, in my opinion. This is basically the warlock patron player race. You want to be a warlock patron? Done. Go. You can have one character in the party be a Thoray, and another character be a warlock, and then Thoray can be the warlock patron of the warlock. Do with that what you wanna do with that. Why am I ad-hocing this part of the script? I have no idea. Moving on. Thorays constantly have to watch their back. There's always the risk of someone wanting their eternal soul back, and that only happens if the Thoray dies before the soul is digested. Some people see Thorays as evil and kill them for that reason, but Thorays are no more evil for consuming souls than a dog is for eating meat. It's simply their diet. They can't help it. And then there are the ones who want the skin of a Thoray, for if you skin a Thoray and make a cape, it will shape you to the same mold as the Thoray, that of the creature that fell into the vortex, allowing you to transform into that creature. A wonderful magic item. And all it takes is killing something that runs around stealing the souls of upstanding citizens. Thorays seldom share where their vortexes are found for this reason. If found, they could be used to mass-produce magical transformation cloaks, where someone could breed a bunch of rabbits and create an army of fully grown soldiers that were born yesterday and won't question orders. Someone could exploit a naive, newly spawned Thoray to get unnatural gifts without giving anything in return, causing the Thoray to swiftly die of old age. Thorays may be made fully grown, but they're still inexperienced, and for this reason an older Thoray will typically be watching over a vortex to help teach the ropes. I hope you like this concept. I think it could be a lot of fun to have in a game. Now you just have to write the actual rules and make drawings to illustrate the concept to your players. But fret not, I have already done that for you. In the description you will find a link to a fully illustrated PDF with all the rules needed to play a Thoray, and the lore fully laid out. Complete with the feat I mentioned earlier, the magic item you get for skinning a Thoray, and even a table for how past bargains can affect your current adventures. But wait, there's more. In playtesting, I found that bargaining for souls can be a bit difficult for some players. So I've also included a section with advice for both players and DMs to help you along with the Thorays in your games. At this point, I think the world building of Thorays can have a major impact on the campaign, and honestly, I don't mind. I think there's a lot of ways to play with the world building of Thorays to create interesting plots, and I can't wait to see what future adventurers have in store. Not to toot my own horn, but right now I feel like Thoray's place in the world is a lot more fleshed out than some official options that are kind of just like, you're a human with some extra gimmicks and some lore that no one will remember because it doesn't really have any bearing on the current plot and isn't interesting enough to include in the games. That might just be me though. Anyway, Thoray, there you go. Bye! So, you've heard about I managed to get through one line. So, you've heard about the stories about Faustian. You've heard about stories about Faustian. Hang on, that is no. And they either outsmart the devil or get the boast of both worlds, or cast. Hang on, did I say or and? What if we were to take. I shifted slightly to the left side, and my knee made a noise in the middle of me speaking. I don't think I can cut that out. My throat feels funny already. Yeah. The lice. Not to mention that they can't go negative in lifespan or they die of old age. Yay! Bear the life of another crab. Absolute chef's kiss. Mwah. Mwah. I don't know how to do a kissing noise. Oh, I forgot to put a sock on my microphone to be a pop filter. Damn. I'm also thinking that it would be nice to have subraces. Along these lines, I originally planned on this race being able to briefly look into your soul. Not yours specifically, let me do that again. Your friend fell in. Torn into infinitesimal bits. Your friend fell in. Torn into It's the into infinitesimal bit that trips me up. Into infinitesimal. Visually, they bear the features of whatever fell creature. No, that's the wrong place to put that word, isn't it? A wyvern could yield. Why is there a control shortcut overlapping the text? I want to read, darn it! In the description, you will find a link to a filly? No. With some extra gimmicks. Knock on wood.